oscillate back and forth. Ken, could you come up? What are the most important elements of the issues of homelessness?
First of all, as I said in my opening remarks, this is about all of us. Any one of us in this room could find ourselves being homeless. As the cost of living in this community and the price of housing continues to go up and fewer people are feeling the prosperity, that could become true. Second of all, there is a lack of affordable housing in our community. Right now, it's estimated that somewhere between 22 and 27,000 unit shortfall. And I would argue and will that the City of Portland's policies and programs help contribute to that lack of affordability. And third of all, I would argue that economic factors are critical and increasingly so. Even if we get to a $15 an hour minimum wage in our community, that only gets you to about 40% MFI, meaning even at a full-time minimum wage of $15 an hour, you still need a subsidy to be able to afford to live in the city of Portland.
Good. Your turn. Yeah, one up, Jessie. Jessie, we're gonna have you preach one night. I'm sorry.
All right. The biggest problem that we have right now is complete detachment. And Ted, I hate to point you out, but I know you really didn't just say that anybody in this room could end up homeless tomorrow. There's no way you're going to be homeless tomorrow. There's no way you're going to be homeless, or you're going to be homeless, or you're going to be homeless. But for the rest of us, we could be homeless tomorrow. So, and some of us are. Some of us actually are. And I love you guys. And the biggest problem we have is detachment. Look, I've slept on the sidewalks with these people. I've slept in front of City Hall. We've organized campouts. We do the thing before the Rose Festival where we take over the whole neighborhood with tents. There's no detachment going on here. So everybody wants you to believe that they have empathy, but they don't. They have sympathy. And sympathy and empathy are different. Sympathy means I've never been over there, but I feel real bad for you. Empathy means, brother, I've been there. I've been there. I know how cold concrete is. I know how terrible it is when somebody else, get a job! And you're like, man, stop running street sweepers. So the biggest problem we have is a disconnect between the top and the bottom of the city. I love you.
They pointed out a lot of the important things. I mean, it is a disconnect. There's a disconnect between people who are housed and people who aren't. And a big part of it is that we have this huge problem of income inequality in the community. To address the idea that raising the minimum wage will help, but it's not going to be enough. The elements of homelessness are complicated. There's a lot of different parts here. But there are some basic things that we need to do. We talked about the housing. We need to have enough housing for everyone. Just strictly have capacity, have a place for people to go. Right now, we have people on the street that are being told to move, and there's nowhere for them to move to. It's insane for us to be using our resources. So when we stop doing that and we start actually addressing the fundamental housing issue, I think we will start to actually make some progress on this. We've been treading water because we're not catching up, because we are over 20,000 units behind on what housing we actually need to have in the city. So until we make that effort, we are not going to solve this problem. So we need to have that as the foundation. We need to have a place for people to be. Beyond that, the income is a big part of it. There's a limited amount we can do at the city level, but we have a lot of pressure on the state to give us the opportunity to lift the preemption on the city setting its own wages, and also just to raise the state wage and all that. And then just one last thing is just all the great organizations like the Union Gospel Mission and the Home for Everyone program, all of these things working together is going to be very helpful, but only if it's adequately funded. Thank you.
To answer this question, we're oversimplifying. I mean, look, the homelessness is not a category, and then we have housing as a category, and we have wages as a category. It's all part of one thing. People can't afford to live in their homes, and so now they're homeless. When I went out the street, the number one reason that I found that people are on the streets is because no cause evictions. We have to make sure that we're taking care of all of these problems. So we need to feed the houseless person and not feed the homeless industry. What I mean by that is that we have to look and see people and not dollar signs. We have to see neighborhoods instead of spreadsheets. We have to empathize and sympathize. And if we can do that and hook it all together and make it work, I really believe we can, because Portland is, what makes Portland great are the communities that are in this town, this city. And we can pull together and work towards a common ideal of what we believe Portland can be. We can do that.
Thank you.
Well, my answer was different before Jessie stood up. I think the biggest problem here is that the people with power don't have Jessie's values, and the people with Jessie's values don't have power. We have money. We built $1 billion bridge. We spend billions off to war, and yet the federal government divests itself of urban interests, housing, transportation, everything we need. And we're left to go it alone as Portland, coming up with solutions with our already weak tax system in place, trying to find creative ways to finance what we need to house people. With political will, we can make happen what we need here. But we need to be listening to the right voices. We need to not be telling communities what they need and want. We need to be listening to what communities need and want, and we need to be making sure that our resources are marshaled in support of those efforts. Instead of telling communities what they need, people with power need to be able to share that power, listen to those people, and then make sure that those resources go there so that those people in those communities can meet their needs for themselves.
Okay, next question in different orders. What 3 specific actions do you recommend that the city take to address homelessness in Portland? What 3 specific actions? You got that one, Jess? Okay, because we're gonna start outside. I think we're gonna start though with David, and then we're gonna go with, because we started on that side first, but you're in the right order. David, you first, and then Jess. 3 specific actions the city should take.
So the first specific action that the city should take is something that the city may actually be forced to take if it doesn't take this action proactively, which is to stop the criminalization of homelessness. I think that that's the fundamental starting place that we need to get to in order to have the rest of the conversation. We need to stop treating homelessness as a crime. We need to stop treating people who need to sleep as people who are offending society. We all have a basic need to sleep. We cannot force people to do that in ways that are not safe. We need to take the responsibility as a community to deal with that. Now, another specific action that the city can take is to create a dedicated funding mechanism to address this problem. I've suggested a way to do that, and I encourage all the candidates to think creatively about the ways that we can fund this solution. And the very last thing that the city can do is to actually go out and listen to the community, to go out and actually talk with the people where they are and get that granular picture of what people's needs are, so that we're not trying to do a blanket solution for everybody, but we really address the very specific concerns that people have. Thank you.
Okay, I think this would be a great time to, I'm not a big policy guy because I don't believe in coming up here and telling you about policy, because I've been to city council one time, so I know that policy is a collaborative effort. I'm a big proponent of making sure you turn off the faucets before you spend all your money mopping the floor for the rest of your life. Okay, so with that, we already have some decent programs in place in our community right now. They've come to real collaborative efforts, and my hats off to everybody that's worked on that. Look, let's stop the funding. Do you know there's over 700 generational homes that are bank owned right now in this city? What if so the problem isn't always going from the bottom up, right? There's people that just can't find anywhere to live. So if you can't find anywhere to live, you end up on the bottom, now you're sleeping on the sidewalk, it's a lot harder to get a job, right? So everybody wants to talk transitional housing, going from the bottom up. But what if we went from the top to bottom, right, and stopped people from going all the way down? So what if we turned the Wapato jail instead of a place where we incarcerate and pitch away our economic refugees, because nobody wants that. But why don't we sell it, rent it out to hipsters, and take that money that we rent out to hipsters, and then use that to fund the homeless?
I have to read, so like, okay. So specific actions that the city takes to address homelessness and employment. The first thing, I think especially as the mayor, your police force is your military. They're your strongest arm, they're your most dangerous and your most powerful. And I think that we need to make sure that our police in the streets are serving as guardians of the public good for everyone in our city. That is one thing I would do immediately as mayor. I think another thing that we need to do is understand that the silos of mediocrity are not working. We need to be careful how we're working together. We need to bring all of the resources, all of the levels of government, of all of the communities around here who are struggling with us in this problem, and we need to work together. It is far too late that the city of Portland is now going to Oregon Solutions to deal with the problem of the spring water corridor, bringing ODOT, bringing Clackamas County into the table. After we've been dealing with this for months and months and months, that should have been the first thing that we did, not the last thing. And finally, we do need to tap into creative community solutions. There are too many resources in this community for us to let that go to waste when we can be mobilizing. If we can be a city that can plant 400,000 trees while we continue to develop and grow, we are a city that can come up with ways to get people under roofs every single night.
You know, I'm sorry, it's a flawed question. I mean, what three things? I mean, I wish I had magic 3 things to do. Like I said, it's a bigger problem than what we thought, right? If I had to pick, what I would do is I'm going to look around and see what works. Central Student Concern, full time, they have mentorship programs. I think that's amazing. We should do that. We should emulate what's working with like R2D2, Police Innarone. That place is more of a conduit to getting people off the streets than it is a homeless camp. We need to back that up and do it. Another thing that we can do, I mean, it's going to cost money. Los Angeles right now, the housing authority is putting in place renter incentives, landlord incentives, so they keep a certain part of their housing affordable, and they get paid for this, and it gets people off the streets, and then they can sleep, and then they can actually, get on with their lives. So. The basic 3 things, that's what I do, but it is a larger problem, and it's going to take more than 3 things. Thank you.
I realize it is a trap question, but Ted.
Number one, I believe the city should provide more flexibility in terms of providing off-street solutions for people who'd like to come in out of the rain and out of the cold, including more flexible zoning, allowing more flexible building solutions like modular housing that they've done up in Vancouver, allowing for smaller units that are more affordable, and allowing the construction of more low-cost facilities. Number 2, increase funding for all of this by going after the Medicaid dollars that the Obama administration just opened up to get people off the streets. California and New York have gone after that aggressively. If I'm mayor, I'll work for a home for everyone, and the county and the state to secure dollars like that for us. And then finally, ease the restrictions that the city puts on the construction of affordable housing. I'll reform both the design review process as well as the permitting process, and reduce some of the fees that are actually charged to affordable housing construction in the city that make it more expensive and unaffordable.
But there are a few steps we can take immediately. First, we need more temporary emergency shelter that is deployed so that we have clean, safe, dry places for people to sleep that are connected to services. Second, we need a dedicated fund for housing. I want to salute the work that the Welcome Home Coalition is doing, and I am in full support of those efforts because we need a fund for more housing. And then the third thing is that we need to view the challenge holistically. We need crisis mental health services and addiction services and the kinds of things that help people who are struggling, who are on the streets. We have a new crisis unity mental health center that will be opening. We need a whole system of services connected to that, and as we do it, we need peers, we need people who are experiencing homelessness, we need all of the folks at the table to help us design a system that works.